A Hall of Fame quarterback has some advice for Kyle Shanahan. Welcome to your daily 49ers update. Here's what's happening. Now that we don't have any coaching news to talk about, take a listen to something Steve Young said on 95.7 The Game last week. He had some advice for Kyle Shanahan when it comes to his quarterback, Brock Purdy.
I think Kyle should call RPOs for Brock. We should put him on the run out of the huddle where he's going to carry it. The threat that he needs to bring, look, we understand the processing power, but that's the game today is there's free first downs with the legs, free touchdowns, and especially in the fourth quarter. So I would like to extend what we saw a little bit more as a nifty Brock Purdy this year. I thought it was cool. I thought it really mattered, but I'd like to see more of it.
It's not exactly shocking that one of the best running quarterbacks of all time wants to see the 49ers quarterback run a little bit more. But here's Steve Young explaining why he thinks that.
You have to threaten the line of scrimmage every time if you're going to go to the Super Bowl. It feels like obviously into the future, you have to have a quarterback that's going to threaten the line of scrimmage 84 times they take the ball in their hands. And every time I watch the playoffs, this playoffs reminded me of that truth again. And Brock I think you guys are right. I think he can do that. Puts him at risk more because the ball's in his hands at the end of the play more often. That's risky, but I think it's got to happen.
In fairness to Steve, Brock did run more last season. He had almost twice as many carries and led the team in rushing touchdowns, believe it or not, with 5. Now, I know some of that was because of all the injuries to the running backs, but we saw Brock Purdy clearly look to gain yards with his legs more last year than he ever has before. The question is, will Kyle start doing some of that stuff by design? Almost all of Brock's rushing yards last year came via the scramble because nothing was open down the field. Will Kyle actually call some RPOs and do that? I don't know. It is risky, like Steve said, because Brock has ended 2 of his 3 seasons as 49ers starting quarterback unable to participate due to various injuries. So we'll have to wait and see. I do think it would be an interesting wrinkle by the Niners, but I don't know if Kyle Shanahan is quite on board with what Steve Young is saying. One more note before we move on. I want to give a shout out to our own Steph Sanchez, who hosts the Bully Ball podcast on Tuesdays on this network. She's at the Senior Bowl now, getting clips and video interviews and things like that from the Senior Bowl, all 49ers related. So, Steph, thank you for doing that. Check out her YouTube channel, Steph49K. Subscribe if you want everything that she is doing at the Senior Bowl. We always give you one thing to read, one thing to watch, and one thing you might have missed. One thing to read on this Wednesday. If you want the Niners to restock the offensive line in the draft, Jordan Elliott of NBC Sports Bay Area has 5 offensive linemen for you to keep an eye on. If you want to read it, click the link in the description of this episode. One thing to watch. If you are wondering who to root for in the Super Bowl, Deebo Samuel gave his pick on his Cleats and Convos podcast. If you want to check that out, you got to go to the Bleacher Report app. Deebo not maybe rooting for who you think he would root for, and there's a very specific reason. One thing you may have missed, we have Kubiak on Kubiak crime coming next season. Former 49ers passing game coordinator Clint Kubiak is now going to coach against the Niners in the NFC West. He is the Seahawks offensive coordinator. Of course, he's not to be confused with Clay Kubiak, who is still on the 49ers coaching staff as offensive passing game specialist. And once again, I'd like to give a special shout out to Gary Kubiak for having 3 sons, having them all get into football, and having all their first names start with the letter K. That's a wrap on today's 49ers in 5. Please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Pods. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Click the bell to get notified when we're live, which is every single weekday, and after all Niners breaking news. Enjoy your Wednesday, everybody. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera.